Now, with OEM integration taking up more space than ever before and being more important in your daily installs, it is critical to make sure you partner up with the right brand that can support you on all these jobs. Today's spotlight is on Wāvtech, a brand that literally cut its teeth in the category, and today more than ever is offering you more solutions that you could really get behind. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Wāvtech, and it starts now. What's going on, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. We're talking OEM integration, and the brand at hand has literally been there from the very beginning, coming to you with great solutions that you might know them for their active LOCs, which are absolutely packed with features. But recently, they've certainly added a lot to their product range, and we've got their product expert, Jason Kemmerer, joining us today. Now, Jason, not your first time here. We're happy to have you back. But man, do you have a lot more to talk about than ever before. Can you give us a little breakdown of what we're going to be discussing on today's show?
Hey, thanks, Ben. Great to be back. Yeah, we've expanded the line significantly since then. I mean, the natural progression was to go from our complete lineup of line output converters and line drivers into building an amplifier around those. And then there's a few accessories that came along the way. Some we have patents on that are really specialized for not only just audio integration, but integration in general. And then recently, and just shipping now actually, is a very special thin subwoofer, the Thin Pro 12, which we'll get into, which is just a phenomenal application piece and then some.
Certainly a lot of goodies to talk about, but first I'd like to offer our partner, SiriusXM, a quick opportunity to remind dealers why it's always an excellent add-on sale. And when we come back, let's dive a little bit deeper into the new Wāvtech. Don't you dare go away.
Hi, Paul Truman here with SiriusXM. We reached out to some of our partners in the industry, and here's what they had to say.
I can't say more or enough about just what it means to have our unit working with SiriusXM. It's like we're there now.
The SiriusXM service is something consumers want, right? So it's Paul.
That allows a consumer to listen to either podcasts, entertainment, sports, all at their fingertips. It's all about engagement, and that's what SiriusXM provides.
SiriusXM is a huge component in a vehicle nowadays. Consumers expect that technology to be available both in our OEM system as well as the aftermarket upgrades that they're applying to their vehicle.
Alpine and SiriusXM, through our electronics, are able to offer the consumer on the aftermarket side SiriusXM 360L, which is an expanded platform for SiriusXM. And it's really been a beneficial relationship for us with SiriusXM.
As a dealer, just remember, we don't compete with anybody else. We are absolutely one of the best profitability accessories you can add to any head unit that is SiriusXM ready.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're talking OEM integration with Wāvtech and Jason Kemmerer. Jason, man, I love the progression and the growth that I've seen coming from the Wāvtech camp. And you're right, we're going to start today's show with the fundamentals, because really this is where Wāvtech made its name. It continues to be a mainstay for so many installers. And of course, I'm talking about LOCs, or line output converters, active ones, in fact, that incorporate such features that you mentioned earlier, like a line driver. So I want to give you an opportunity to kind of start there, and we'll definitely progress the conversation from there.
Yeah, Ben. So the LOCs is what got us started, actually. What we were founded upon is there was just a real market need. There hadn't been anything new in the market for a good long time. Vehicles had changed, applications had changed, and there wasn't really anything that addressed true sound performance. So our core mission is as much vehicle coverage as possible and as few as models as possible, but also to deliver the best possible sound quality you can get from an OEM head unit or an aftermarket head unit, and also to operate as standalone preamps as well. All of our LOCs are line drivers. They're a true preamp design, which gives you a very wide gain range. We've actually split it into two ranges. They all take up to 40 volts of input on the speaker level, and on the RCA inputs, they can take 5 or 10 volts on that. All of them since the beginning have had loading built in, which is something that was really never addressed before. We're the first brand to have loading built into all of our models. And that was really critical for two reasons. One is that load detect issue goes way back, probably 20 years. But also, as more Class D has gotten into OEM radios and amplifiers, there was no ability to filter that. So these actually make those Class D output filters work correctly. And the great part about that, having the loading built in, is if it doesn't work, you just need a little bit more for those corner cases. And that's where we have a little add-on accessory called the Link LD. All of our products, like I said, are line drivers. They can deliver over 10 volts of RMS output. And what that means is you can turn the gains on your amplifiers all the way down and let the LOC, let the line driver do the work. Now, through the line, we go from 2-channel all the way up to 8-channel summing processors, including a very, very unique game changer bass restoration processor that works on already low pass signals. So you can put it after factory crossovers on sub channels or after a aftermarket radio or DSP, and including things like parametric EQ that had never been done before in an LOC. So we give you the ability to not only get the signal to the right level and get all your gains perfect so you have no noise floor and huge dynamic range, but we also help you make it sound better.
I gotta say, Jay, if you haven't tried one of these Wāvtech LOCs, do yourself a favor, pick one up. You probably don't have to stock a whole lot of different models. A couple popular ones in there, but between the processor and the line driver and the fact that it has load detection, I mean, that just saves a headache altogether. You just plug it in and it will work. And ultimately, with the performance of the signal that's coming out of there, having that noise floor is just amazing. You're going to get the top quality that you need. Okay. We talked about the LOCs. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time for it because let's be honest, I think a lot of people know about the LOCs. But did they know that you've taken that technology and now have applied them to your own range of amplifiers? So Jay, talk to us about this new range of amplifiers with incredible OEM integration features built right in.
Yeah, Ben. So the natural progression is to go from, once we perfected the LOC range that covers well over 95% of the vehicles out there, and actually 100% because they can all work with adding a subwoofer to any system, was to build an amplifier around our preamp stage. This is the Link 300.4 Mini, the smallest in the lineup. We took the whole input stage design and built the amplifier around it. So this has the same 40 volt input range in dual ranges, has, of course, the RCA inputs as well, that also has a dual range, so up to 5 volts or up to 10 volts, and on the speaker level, up to 20 volts or 40 volts in those ranges, giving you that ultimate signal and noise because your gain is much lower than it would have to be, and it's actually adjustable instead of having a huge range on a single dial. All of the multi-channels are summing processors, so this 4-channel here, the 300.4, has actually got essentially 2 Link 4s built into it. It allows you to sum a factory 2 range, the full range, and send it to both the front and rear channels independently or together. And because of that, because this is an amplifier with the preamp built in, there's not a separate amplifier. The gain, we needed an ability, once there's a sum done or you're doing copy to all the channels with the same signal, is that we have a level trim on the output that allows you to get your frequency response mixed the way you want it and then adjust the relative output levels like you need, such as front stage and rear fill, or you want the subwoofer louder. Because we have more space, more real estate in these amplifiers than we did in the LOCs, which were really, really small. These are also really, really small. We've progressively added more and more features. This is the latest amplifier they'll be shipping in October. This is our 700.4, and this incorporates a Link 6, but it does way more than a Link 6 does. It actually has a full parametric EQ that we call, together with 24 dB per octave subsonic and low pass filters that we call the Bass Freak processor, and that can actually be applied to channel 3/4 in a bridge mode, or to our line driver pre-outs, which are it's the same line driver pre-out that is in all of our preamps, and that gives you the ability to add any or multiple subwoofer amplifiers on there, all controlled from the remote and using the processor inside. All of our amps are stop-start ready, which means they won't power cycle on you all the way down to 7 volts, so they're compatible with all stop-start vehicles. They all have active thermal management built into them, so if they get hot, they're going to roll back instead of shutting down on you, so just keep the music playing. And the power supplies are really, really overbuilt in these. All of the multi-channels are delivering in excess of 30% more than the rated power. The monos, 10 to 15%. So you're getting way more power than you can imagine in this small package. And also the loading, with all of our experience with the loading built into the LOCs, the amplifiers have a newer circuit, which is actually an adaptive loading circuit, which starts out at a much lower impedance and then adapts to the signal as the voltage changes. And so they're compatible with all the vehicles on the road except for very few corner cases, and they let you integrate without adding like our Link LD accessory.
Well, like I said, absolutely packed with integration features, and I think it's genius to have, based this entire new amp design around those original LOC interfaces. Now, just so people know, when at launch time, I don't know how many, maybe a year and a half ago until now, let's just give the audience a quick breakdown of the amplifiers that are currently available from Wāvtech.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. We started off with actually two core models, the 300.4 and the 500.1 mono. And then within a few months of that, we came out with a higher power 4-channel, the 500.4, and then the 1000.1. Then in this year, we've actually added a 5-channel, which is incredibly powerful, 125 by 4 and 500 by 1 with a full 6-channel processor in it. And then the Link 700.4 is an even more powerful 4-channel, which incorporates that same processing that the 5-channel does, and then some. It actually has more crossover capability. So all combined, we have 6 models now that just cover the vast majority of applications, everything from the small 4-channel all the way up to the super powerful 1000 mono and the 1000 5-channel.
All right, so first off, LOCs. Let's check that box. Now they went and introduced some amplifiers with a great selection of different amplifiers for every situation. Let's check that box as well. Now I'm going to go back to Knowledge Fest Las Vegas last year, and I had the chance to put my hands and eyes on this new creation that came from this mad scientist. His name is Jason Kemmerer. And it was, I wasn't sure what it was at first, to be honest. But then he started explaining, and that's what he's going to do for you now. Let's talk about the revolutionary new subwoofer offering from Wāvtech called the Thin Pro.
Well, thanks, Ben. Yeah, here's the Thin Pro, and this is a first for us, but I've done many subwoofers in my career, and this is by far the most incredible design. And it's an application thing because it's only 3 inches deep, yet it outperforms subwoofers 3 times the depth with an incredible mechanical excursion of over 2 inches peak to peak and a linear X max of 20 millimeters. Just unheard of in this depth of a subwoofer that can fit in amazingly small places. What makes that work is its massive 5-inch voice coil and just a huge motor. This patent pending design actually is completely opposite of all other shallow subs that have been done before, where the suspension, the Spider suspension system in here, there's actually 2 NBR spiders in here that allow this to be inside the motor, therefore providing much more centering force and allowing the motor to be as big as possible, just fitting inside the frame. So a super powerful motor structure, really large voice coil, makes really high power handling, and it gives us the clearance necessary to get that ridiculous stroke in such a small package. Now, of course, in the application that we're going for primarily was, really small spaces, right? So you don't want a shallow sub that needs a big box. These subwoofers actually work in incredibly small spaces, and they're very efficient. The enclosure range, or the recommended enclosure size, is actually 0.6 cubic feet, but they actually work very well in enclosures as small as 0.4 cubic feet. If you can imagine how small that is, that's barely big enough for a traditional 10. Because the motor is so powerful, it powers its way through those small enclosures while still giving you excellent sound performance. I mean, even in that 0.4 cubic foot, we're still in the 0.9 Q range and an F3 in the low 40s. So it's just absolutely an incredible sound quality and output subwoofer that you have to hear it to believe it. It doesn't sound like any thin or shallow sub you've ever heard before. And we're really excited. It's finally shipping now. I was just showing you the new grill, the optional grill that you can get for it as well. And so, check it out. You got to hear it.
Like I said, a revolutionary design by none other than the folks at Wāvtech. I know this is an OEM integration show, but we had to include that piece because when it comes to integration, you got to get sound in tight places. And if you want big bang in small spaces, I got to say, that sub right there, pretty darn unique. All right, our last category for today's show is accessories, because we talked about some bigger categories, but sometimes it's these little accessories that'll decide the fate of your system depending on the vehicle. So Jay, why don't you talk to us about some important accessories that Wāvtech has to offer?
Yeah, Ben, there's just a few accessories. Just to finish up with the ThinPro 12, this is the grill that I had on it, and that's the TP12G optional grill for that. And then there's just 4 other accessories, starting with the Link RC, which is the optional remote that works with our Link DQ processor, and line driver and LOC, and then it also works with all the amplifiers that are remote ready. So that would be the 500.4, the 1000.5, and the 2 monos, and including the new 4-channel, the 700.4. Then for those cases I mentioned where the loading that we already have built in isn't quite enough, there's a few cases like late model Chrysler non-amplified that need just a little bit more loading, and that's just our little Link LD plug-in load module. It's super small because we already have loading built in, and even these little guys can take peaks up to 40 volts RMS signals. So they work with amplified that also need that loading in some cases too. And then there's a couple unique pieces. So first is the IRAD, which is patented technology, and this actually does 3 main things. It's an ignition generator, a true ignition generator. So you just tag any power and ground in the vehicle anywhere and program it in a minute, and it will learn the running voltage and off voltage and then automatically generate a true ignition for you. And that's just perfect for modern vehicles that are bus driven. There may not even be an accessory or an ignition wire in the car, or if there is one, you're going to waste a heck of a lot of time trying to find it. Whereas you could just go with an IRAD and know you're going to be done with it in a minute, and you can tag power anywhere. It does 2 other really amazing things as well. It has built-in delays, so you can set that ignition generation not to shut off and start vehicles, so you can guarantee that the system is going to stay on. But also, because of those delays, you can use it as a turn on and turn off pop solution. They're actually reversible turn off delays. You can turn on your radio first and then your amp, and turn off your amp first and then the radio, so you can totally eliminate any turn on or turn off system pop noise. And then lastly, for stop-start vehicles with bigger systems that you can't solve with just adding a secondary battery in parallel, you need to isolate it so it doesn't see that, the system doesn't see that voltage drop every time the vehicle cranks when it's starting. And that's the relay solenoid control mode, that the IRAD automatically controls the isolation solenoid that separates the batteries when the engine stops and joins them back together when it's running again. And then lastly is the ART. This is just kind of an everyday low-cost solution for getting a trigger if you're not using any of our amplifiers or our LOCs, because this is exactly the same circuit that's built into all of those, which is our independent turn-on mode capability, which triggers off of either DC offset, which is the vast majority of vehicles, or audio only, to accommodate those vehicles that either Class D source that doesn't have a DC offset, or a portable device even can trigger it. And it gives you the ability to turn them both on, turn one off, or turn the other off. And it's just a super quick solution. Just tag the speaker line anywhere in the vehicle, power and ground, and you've got a 1.5 amp triggered output that you can use to drive radar detectors, relays, or what have you directly. And that's it. Really compact line. Everything has a purpose, and it all serves OEM integration and integration in general.
And that was product expert Jason Kemmerer joining us from Wāvtech. Now, if you want any more information about any of the products covered on today's show, definitely connect with them on their website. We'll put it on the screen right now. And again, if you're in Canada, well, definitely reach out to the team at Importel, as they are the distribution partner for all things Wāvtech in Canada. Now, here's my takeaway. Guys, OEM integration, it is a serious category. It is not going away. And if anything, it's going to play even a bigger role as time moves forward. Lucky for us, we have brands like Wāvtech, which are constantly innovating new solutions to help you do your job. And that is, of course, to get better sound into customers' vehicle, regardless of the vehicle. I love that ThinPro. I know it's not super OEM, but man, who can, deny the engineering into that subwoofer? But what I think the real winner here, and of course this is what goes without saying, the LOCs from Wāvtech are going to be a mainstay. But the amplifiers for me are an absolute winner. I think they've come out with a nice range, small form factor, loaded with everything you could possibly need to make sure you get that signal from the car and be able to amplify it through some really powerful amps for that matter, and get that sound just the way your customer wants it. And for me, that is the most critical takeaway in today's installs, getting the signal amplifying it with great sound and making the customer happy. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.